Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from keyboardimprov.com, and welcome to our journey through the real book number 208, the 208th tune in the real book, Up a Lazy River. Here called Lazy River, it's under L, but it's Up a Lazy River. This whole series of jazz piano lessons is designed to get us to learn jazz standards in a way that takes into account when they were written, some of the interpretations that have come down to us over the years, and really just to see them in their historical import or importance or tradition, the cultural tradition they came from, and getting beyond just the notes. How to play these tunes? How have other people play these tunes? What are some of our options? And make informed choices about what we do, and just, not just ink on a page, right? So Lazy River, if you're jamming with other people and you're playing tunes in the real book, this might not be the tune that you always play. You might play things like Autumn Leaves, or Confirmation, maybe even Giant Steps. Lazy River, hey, Charlie Parker never recorded that, Bill Evans never did it, Oscar Peterson probably never played Up a Lazy River that I know of. So what is this tune, right? But, so you may be surprised to know that this is probably one of the 5 most important jazz tunes in the book. Unbelievably important tune. 1931, Hoagy Carmichael. Hoagy Carmichael, very important songwriter. He wrote George on My Mind, The Nearness of You, and Stardust. Up until it was kind of forgotten about, was known as the greatest song of the 20th century. But basically, Lazy River, Hoagy Carmichael, great composer. He grew up in the early days of jazz. In the 20s, he and the cornet player Bix Beiderbecke from Midwest, around the Chicago area, they were going to hear Louis Armstrong and absorbing it and putting it into what became popular songs of the day. And then this tune is so. If you go to a water park or you bring your kids to a water park, and you get on this, a little boat or a raft or something or a tube, and you float down the Lazy River, or as one that I know, the Lazy Crazy River, it comes from this song. Whoever named that river at the water park knew Up a Lazy River. Up until about the 70s or 80s, this tune was everywhere. Sing-along song. Everybody knew this tune, as like we would know Beatles songs today. My dad played 3 songs on the piano: Basin Street Blues, Tenderly, and Up a Lazy River. I think I heard this tune every day for about 5 or 6 years, from my maybe even earlier when I was a very baby. I can't even remember, but certainly in my teen years I heard this every day. And boy, maybe at the time I was saying, oh, there he is playing Up a Lazy River again, and now I'd love to hear that again, and I can't. So wonderful tune. Louis Armstrong recorded this in 1933. If you want to become a better jazz player, listen to the Louis Armstrong version of Up a Lazy River from 1933. And also the Sidney Bechet, another early New Orleans player, soprano sax. Listen to the Sidney Bechet version of Up a Lazy River. Listen to them about 150 times a week for a year, and you will be a much better jazz musician. The Bechet version is just wonderful. It's wonderful how he embellishes the melody, kind of solos around the melody. The Armstrong version is the famous one. And it will, you'll hear, he scat sings on it, ba-ba-doo, ba-da-ba-doo. And then he also plays a trumpet and sings the melody. And he anticipates bebop. It's 1933. That's only a few years after his Hot 7s and Hot 5 recordings of the mid to late 20s. But it's what, 1933 would be about 10 years before the development of bebop, which came into full flower a couple of years after that, but basically 10, 13, 14 years before the golden age of bebop, and he's anticipating some of the rhythms, some of the double time feel. You will hear a little bebop in what Armstrong's doing, unrecognized by the beboppers for the most part, but it was there. And the tune also is very important because I Got Rhythm, which is one of the biggest tunes ever. The bridge to I Got Rhythm, right? Goes what? D7, G7, C7, F7. Well, what are the first 8 measures of Up a Lazy River? It's basically a D7 for 2 measures, a G7 for 2 measures, a C7 for 2 measures, and then F major for 2 measures. So let's take out our pencils for a second. This is a very interesting thing, because a lot of times people look at a fake book like the real book and they say, oh, it's wrong, you know, it's got some chords that aren't there. And of course, yes, it's probably, you know, got a lot of tunes that are a little different than were written. But the question is, where do we base the chord changes from? So for instance, in the second measure, the first measure is D7. Up a lazy river by the... Okay? And they have a D flat 7 to C7 here. So it's D7, D flat 7, C7, and then the G. And I hadn't read the real book version. I know the tune. I haven't really looked at it. It wasn't in the old real book. It was in the new one. So I'm looking at this. I guess about a couple of weeks ago, I started looking at it, thinking about this video. And I said, wait a minute, that's not what I used to hear my dad playing. You know, he just stayed on D7 for 2 measures, right? And that's how I've always played it myself. Why is the C7 there? So I looked online and I found the sheet music, the published sheet music, and the C7's in there. It goes down from D flat to C7. And I'm thinking, that's probably what Hoagy Carmichael wrote. I'm assuming the sheet music's based on pretty much the original sheet music. Not totally sure, but it seems like it is from what I saw. It seems old-fashioned kind of sheet music. So that's what Hoagy Carmichael wrote. He wrote D7, and then it goes down chromatically to C7, then goes to G. But what do people play? And the Armstrong version, Louis Armstrong, from 2 years after that, 1933, songs from 1931, he recorded it in 33, big hit. He didn't do that. He just stayed on D7 for 2 measures. And then they stay on G7 for 2 measures. And then C7 for 2 measures. And then the F looks pretty good. F major and then 2, 5, 1. So we can cross out a few things, or at least put them in parentheses. In measure 2, put the D flat to C in parentheses. Measure 4, the A flat to G. Measure 6, the D flat to C in parentheses, and then in end of bar 8, put the A7 in parentheses. Those are chords that aren't usually played, but they can, and it sounds nice to go in bar 3 and 4, G7 up to A flat and G. But the one in measure 2, going down from D flat to C, I've never heard that, even though it's in the original. So what do? Do we play it the way the composer wanted it? Or do we play it the way Louis Armstrong and all the other jazz musicians have played it? I don't know, maybe Hoagy Carmichael hated that. Maybe every time he heard someone just stay on D7, he said, no, go to C7. I don't know. You know, we don't know this, right? He's not around anymore. We can't really ask him, right? I don't know. Maybe in one of the biographies about Hoagy Carmichael, it talks about this. I don't know. Kind of doubt it in this case, but maybe. What do we do there? Well, we make our own decisions, knowing that the composer wrote this, but the tradition is to play D7 for 2 measures. Right? It's interesting. You can even go up a half step, right? To E flat, to D, sort of like they do in bars 4 and 6 here. I don't know. So that's just one example of how if we just read the real book, we would play these chords and we wouldn't know any of that, right? But it's interesting to listen to some of the recordings, know the tradition, and then we can make the informed choices. Or we can even add our own chords, whatever we want, right? The last 6 measures are classic. It goes tradition, to the 4 chord, the sharp 4 diminished, kind of gospel. 1, 6, 2, 5, and 1. And here's this beautiful bum, 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 bum. 1 to 6, and then a tag, an extra extension. I always hear it going bum, 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 up to D. I forgot to look at the sheet music to see if it does that, but this is the 3rd measure from the end. Bum, 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 bum. I don't know, maybe that's the way my dad played it, but I always hear it like that. I think other people do too. So there you have it. Sort of a philosophical discussion on what do we do. The funny thing is, for all the, quote, freedom and harmonic adventurousness of jazz musicians, a lot of times the jazz musicians take out some of the interesting things from the sheet music, like going down to the C in bar 2, that are sort of out of the box, right? We sort of follow, okay, go around the circle of fourths. D, G, C, F, goes around the circle of fourths. But maybe it's more interesting to do what Hoagy Carmichael did. I don't know. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to play it the way I know it, which is the D7 for 2 measures. I'm going to start a little out of tempo, 6 measures from the end on that 4 chord, and kind of an old-fashioned, maybe parlor piano or a little bluesy, and then get into tempo when I go back to the beginning and just see where it takes us. I love embellishing the melody on this. I might not even take a sort of proper improvised solo. I might just stay with the melody and do things with it. And tradition of Art Tatum and people like that. Sidney Bechet. Here we go, Up a Lazy River. One of the most important tunes. Listen to Armstrong and Bechet a lot. This tune is so much fun to play. It's a shame it's not known as much as it used to be. But like I said, you know, I was born in '64, so in the in the '70s, and you'd hear this around. You'd hear it on the radio, or whatever. You'd hear this song. You'd hear it at sing-alongs, and I heard it a lot around the house. But very important tune. And you can hear how it has that 4 to the sharp 4, important chord progression. It's got basically the bridge to I Got Rhythm baked into this chord. If you want to learn how to play I Got Rhythm's bridge, learn this melody. And it's very bebop too. It's got the 9th. It goes up to the 4th note in this melody. It's a pop song from 1931. It has a flat 9 in it. We don't have flat 9s in pop music anymore, right? Awesome. Very harmonically adventurous, and definitely anticipates bebop, both in Armstrong's recording, but also in how these, boop, 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 boop. Sounds bebop if I just sort of speed it up a little bit. Enjoy this, have fun, immerse yourself in Lazy River, and then we'll get to, a tune I played on Broadway in Swinging on a Star. Like Someone in Love, Jimmy Van Heusen, Johnny Burke next time. Good luck with your playing, and I'll see you next time.